good evening, and welcome to our October meeting for the Western region of SAVE chapters. Today's topic is starting strong, how to be more effective in the preparation and information phases. I am Arnecia Williams, CVS out of Greater Los Angeles chapter, president of the chapter and member of SAVE for 10 years now. And my co-presenter is Kaitlyn.
Hi guys, I'm Kaitlyn, or Katie Stewart. I'm a VMA. I am the president of the Arizona SAVE chapter, and we are so excited to be here today.
Yes, so excited. So today we're talking about preparation as well as information phases. And I hope that information we provide today is beneficial and informative. So first, why are these phases so important? Katie?
So really, we wanted to focus on these two phases because, they are the ones that we start off with right out of the gate, but we feel that they're really important because they do set a solid foundation on which to build the study from. They directly impact the success of the study. So if you skimp over these, it kind of makes it harder to do our jobs well down the road. It also sets the tone of the study. If we can do things ahead of time that kind of bring the team together, get everybody bought in on this, focus on the project, how we're going to tackle it, how we're going to deliver quality results, it's a great way to kind of set that tone and push it out and have awesome results.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so true. And the first topic we're going to discuss is the preparation phase, preparing for the VE workshop. So our usual process, we get a confirmed study date, we get a confirmed VE team, the team receives the documents from the client, sometimes a week in advance, sometimes a few days or a day in advance. We have to scramble and review those documents, and then we just wait for the VE workshop to happen. So how can we improve on this quote unquote usual process? Next slide. First tactic is to be proactive. A preparation call will be more beneficial right after award to first get the design team ready for what's to come, provide what the study will entail, guide them through this process, as well as have a better conversation to manage those expectations. A lot of design teams have not been, involved in VE teams. Or they've heard about the VE teams, or they had, not so good experiences. So, and each project is different. So we want to have a initial conversation to manage those expectations. Also, provide deadlines for documents. Let's get that up front so that the team knows we need this information so that the VE team can review and have, the proper amount of time to actually understand the project. Last, let them know what documents you expect. Next slide, please. The next tactic is having a dry run. A lot of times we have a pre-workshop meeting, which is usually 30 minutes to an hour, saying who we are, asking the client, what do you want out of this VE workshop? Trying to get a few of the details that we did not get maybe in those documents, or let them know we're still waiting on documents. So usually that pre-workshop meeting that we're holding now is not providing as much content to the design team. So having a dry run with the design team and stepping them through the process could be beneficial. How it should go. Okay, let them know how much time frame. Do we need more time than what we have in our current agenda? Preparing not only the VE team, but the design team to get the most out of the study, as well as informing them of different platforms that we can use throughout the study. I know a few platforms that I hadn't been familiar with. So introducing those platforms and allowing them to become familiar with those platforms. So in this dry run process, we may do a little 1 or 2 hour meeting just to let them know what we're expecting, informing them about the mid term meeting, what kind of ideas we can come up with. So we want to be more detailed with this dry run. Tactic 3 is to consider a one-day site visit. Previously, when we had in-person studies, we would, have the entire team together. We have our information phase, and then we would have the site visit later that day, or sometimes in the morning, and then we'll have the in-site information phase. But with this virtual platform that we're doing now, we're not having the time to meet, as well as getting the eyes on site. So maybe introduce the client. Well, we can do a one-day run around to the site, see what we're actually planning for, understand the project a little bit more, have a pre-workshop meeting during that site visit, and then everyone's back on the plane and getting ready for the workshop in the next week or two. So it's just a way to see what's what we're working with. And it will help improve that information phase, information gathering, as well as provide more opportunities for the creative phase. And then you can introduce that as being, well, this is less travel because we're only doing a one-day site visit that'll be beneficial for the overall success of this VE study. Next slide. Last is tactic 4, which some people are already doing, an issues memo. This is where the VE team provide comments and questions to the PDT. After they have received documents, they prepare those comments and hope to get those comments and questions answered during the information gathering phase or sooner if possible. But it provides confidence to our clients that, we have reviewed the documents, we understand the project, and we may need a little more clarification on what we received. Additionally, it can let you know or let the client know what we wish we had. Okay, we're missing these few documents. Do you have these documents? Additional cost information. If you have maybe something from a different agency that provided comments. So we want to try to get as much information as we can before the workshop and let them know what our desires are. So again, we want to manage those expectations, but be successful with our outcomes. Any questions with what I've said so far? Okay, next slide. Okay, Katie will discuss the information phase.
Yeah, so this is the information phase. As we know, it's kind of the stage in the VM methodology where it's a transfer of knowledge from the design team or the owner to the VE team. So what's the usual process for this? Typically, an in-brief presentation is given from the design team or the PDT to the VE team. So this is kind of where they're drinking water out of a fire hose as opposed to a garden hose. So it's a lot of information all at once. This is also when the team can ask questions, and then they go forward into the next phases of the study. More often than not, the VE team does get additional information presented to them later in the study. So maybe there's a geotechnical report, or they get things and then they give it to the VE team because they were requested. Or there's also times where it's like, oh, by the way, we also want you to look at this, or oh, by the way, FYI. So how can we improve this study or improve this phase of the study? So the first tactic is to provide a checklist to the design team for the in-brief presentation. This can be very helpful because it kind of focuses the design team on what information they need to give. And then also in a way that the VE team will be able to take it, process it, and move forward with the study pretty flawlessly. Some of the information that needs to be provided would be the summary of the project or product, project goals, what are the workshop objectives, and then any known constraints that the VE team needs to know. Just the basic information that we need to have moving forward into the rest of the study. Another tactic is having Q&A time. With most presentations, we do have that time where people can ask questions, but just making sure that we give enough time in the scheduled to provide enough conversation and question and answering and all that. This is a time where the VE team can ask clarifying questions. After each discipline, it's recommended that you allow time for questions, because if you wait till the end of the project or end of the presentation, people tend to forget stuff, you know. In virtual studies, we also encourage the use of the chat feature. This is a great way to capture the questions and then also capture the answers so they can be referred to back later throughout the study. Also, it's a good time to submit any additional questions that can't be answered by the PDT at the moment of the presentation, or requests for documents by the VE team. We suggest that it happens fairly quickly before, right after the presentation, because then that stuff can be delivered to the VE team, and then they can use that later on in the study. Another really good tactic, tactic number 3, is one-on-one sessions. Allow time to have one-on-one sessions between the discipline designer and the SME. This can happen right after the in-brief presentation. People kind of go to breakout sessions or breakout rooms, and they can have those conversations. So the electrical can talk to the electrical designer instead of waiting and hearing the questions and answers for hydrology or structural or something like that. This can be a much more focused time of conversation, and you can really leverage it to get more information out of each other, and it helps with time management. It could also be utilized during the preparation phase. So potentially during the dry run, you have time for the design team, you know, the discipline designer and the SME to have that conversation where they can put their heads together and they have that really meaningful conversation and discussion. So the last tactic here is pictures and videos. I know that we still have a lot of restrictions. So these are the best ways to, if we are still virtual or if your study is still virtual, to leverage that. We know that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 1,000 times more. Include as many images and drawings to clearly convey the project or product. We are all, you know, pretty technically minded. We're very visual. So having those pictures and that video of like real time, like spatial things, and it really helps convey those messages and convey what the project is. The inclusion of videos is also very beneficial. If you're not able to do like a drone flyover or something, especially like with buildings or highway projects, the use of Google Maps or any similar projects really help get the big picture. So all of our team members can kind of put their arms around it and figure out how to handle or how to juggle or how to, you know, kind of understand the project. So are there any questions for the information phase real quick? All right, so bottom line, there's been so many changes with the virtual workshops and the tools that we have available to us that we can get creative in how we kind of tee up and start off strong with our virtual studies or with our VE studies. We have the ability to make it work for us. So we suggest that you find the tools and tactics that work best for your study, because each study is different, and then work with them, leverage them. Teach your VE team members and teach your clients or design team, like let's work together to make it as effective as possible. So
Arnecia? Yes, also wanted to add, as you can see, and in both of our areas, we discuss the need for either video or in-person, how important it is to see the site, how important it is to know what you're actually going to be studying. You can get as much documents, information, you know, you can, but visually having that is very important to the outcome.
Exactly. So at this point, we're going to put people into breakout rooms. Arnecia, go ahead.
Yes, no worries, no worries. Yes, so we're gonna do breakout sessions. We have about 10 minutes. But we've listed a couple of questions for you all to discuss to help facilitate the discussion in your groups. So one of the first questions that we have is, how do you prepare differently from in-person and a virtual workshop? Question 2, discuss what you have learned during this time of doing virtual workshops. So over probably a year now. So what have you learned? And then also pros and cons, what you like and don't like about it. And then lastly, what have you learned that you would implement into your in-person workshops once we go back, or if you already started doing in-person workshops? And what would you do for both? What would you keep for both as far as a new tool or tactic that you've done? So here are a couple of questions. You can come up with your own discussion, additional questions, but just wanted to get the ball rolling for the breakout sessions. Again, about 10 minutes, and we will put you in your sessions now.
You're back in the big group with everybody.
I understood. So Renee, can you finish your thought?
I think she's on mute.
She might be on mute, yeah.
Yeah, Renee, you're on mute.
I wasn't on mute. I'm on mute now. We've had issues with the designers or the project manager, whoever is our client, don't necessarily give us direct access to the design team. So that's been like, no, we're going to be a go-between. And that doesn't always work either.
Yeah.
All right, so this is really
the thing I was.
Sorry, this is a good segue. Can you tell us what you guys were talking about? We're going into the larger group, so if you could share what you've learned from your peers in the breakout sessions. So I'm assuming you guys were talking about access to the design team and that communication. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we talked about a couple of things. Randy had asked that question, but I think prior to that, Arnecia, I know we're getting ready to do a project for you where we're doing the one-day site visit. And Randy's comment was, we hope that all the other core offices and other offices will do that, because we miss that opportunity, because it's such a huge learning opportunity. When you're actually there, you get to kick the dirt, you get to see what's going on. You know, we tried with Google Maps and all that other stuff, but I think that's something we might want to, you might want to take back to Corey and, let them know that we think that that's a really great opportunity.
Yes, I totally agree.
10-4.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything else that they would like to share that they've learned in their breakout sessions, or any good ideas that were brought up during the breakout sessions?
Well, we were.
Well, I have a question. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I was going to say, another thing we said in our group is, if your client allows you that access, that one-on-one subject matter expert is a good idea. Some of our projects are so diverse. Let's say there's structural and architecture and stormwater all in one project, and I can see where if just the stormwater people on the VE team could talk one-on-one in their lingo, that it would be beneficial. So I wrote that down as an idea to carry forward.
May I ask
Anyway.
a question? May I ask a question of the group? During traditional VE studies, and actually during the virtual ones that I've been a part of, we have tried to keep the entire team together as much as possible for discussions, unless there's a very specific technical thing that needs to be broken out. And in particular, our breakout, there was a mentioning of sort of sending people off to do creativity on their own. And then somebody else commented on it sounded like development on their own. And one of the things that we've been doing is keeping everybody together like we would on a real, or pardon me, I don't mean real, but on an in-person study because it's that team interaction. Somebody will say something and somebody else will ping off of that, and it helps to have everybody together. So I'm curious to know what everybody's doing.
Anna,
Mhm.
Anna, we're talking pre-workshop. We're not talking at the workshop.
Well, we
We're
ended up
talking about if
I realize, but I'm sorry, and that
Okay.
I'm out of scope then, but we were talking a bit about that whole thing with the technology is what we were talking about in our breakout.
Yeah,
So
no, we were talking about pre-workshop to get ready for
yeah,
that whole item, not necessarily during the workshop at the information phase. We were talking about prior
right
to.
on. Okay.
Because I agree with you. Team needs to be together, all of those conversations, because somehow they interact, they touch each other. But what we do is we allow breakout rooms so that when we're actually doing development, somebody can say, hey, Joe, you're my structures guy. I need your help. They go into a breakout room, then they hash it out and they talk
Yes.
about it. And then they come back to the full group. So yeah, but
We do the
other
same
than
thing.
that, yep.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add? Any ideas that came up or things that they learned? I can start volunteering people if you'd like me to.
I can talk more if you want me to.
Oh, it looks like Nishan. Did you?
Yes, I see a lot
I'll
of
back to you.
yes, a lot of SAVE guys, board members are there, and I would like to ask you. At least I have not got a chance to go through any kind of new changes to the SAVE International approach, but has SAVE International given a framework or like has given some kind of documentation saying that hey, if, with the new virtual workshop, you may want to follow this kind of structure in the pre or the pre-workshop information phase. And this
We
may,
put together protocols for working in a virtual environment, but I don't know that we went into the detail to really talk about what you should be doing at each phase, but it was a whole list of protocols. And then we did an update of some protocols, at least for the training. But because one of our goals is to make sure that we still get the same positive outcomes of our VE study. So it was really important, the whole talking about collaboration and communication, but there are a list of protocols that should be available on the website for SAVE.
okay.
They were more about how to manage a team virtually.
Yeah, thank you.
Thomas, did you have something else you'd like to add to?
Oh, I was just going to say in our group, one thing we discussed is like we may have personal preferences of liking in person, but I know our client here, the client I'm working with in Chicago, they really like the virtual. Gives them flexibility to reschedule without canceling flights, and it allows you to draw in expertise from coast to coast without the travel cost. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want to stay virtual even after all the Chicago regulations on masks are dropped.
All right, anything else for the preparation or information phases? If there's not, thank you guys so much for joining Arnecia and I tonight. We really had a lot of fun. Hopefully you're able to walk away with a little nugget that you can apply to your studies going forward. Feel free to reach out to Arnecia or I if you have any tips or tricks or anything like that you'd like to share. But again, thank you so much. Also, if your chapter is meeting afterwards, please just hang around for a little bit just to get some instructions on how to join those chapter meetings. But if not, you're free to scoot and skedaddle. And thank you so much.
Thank you all.